As I've mentioned before, one of my radio interests is in long-distance AM broadcast band listening. I'm not a serious AM DXer, at least not anymore, mostly because I don't have the time, and I live in an area that's rife with RF and electronic noise. This noise comes from our house, nearby houses, street lights, and whatever happens to be passing by on the street. But of course, that simply adds an interesting dimension to the hobby, namely trying to log long-distance stations given modest antennas and using radios that don't cost a fortune. In fact, you can do pretty well under such conditions. Listening from hotels when you travel on the road adds yet another dimension to the challenge. I've been distracted from making videos recently, but now that the fall is here, I hope to get back to a more frequent production schedule. In the meantime, I've acquired several small radios and over the last few months, and reviews will be forthcoming. The first on the list, and the topic of this video, is the Sangean PR-D4W. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it? The Sangean PR-D4W is an AM, FM, and weather band radio. The weather band has the feature of being silent until an alert is sent. It's powered by a 6-volt AC adapter or 4 D cells. The measurement, here I'll just put a big pen down here to give you some idea of the size, but quantitatively it's 8 3/4 inches wide, it's 5.5 inches tall, and it's about 2 1/4 inches deep. Now, I mentioned that this can be completely portable, being powered from 4 D cells. And that turns out to be really important for at least this particular specimen that I purchased. There's a bizarre AC noise issue in my model, and it drives me absolutely insane, although it probably wouldn't bother anyone else, or at least any casual listeners. The issue is that when you have the AC adapter plugged in, so it just plugs in here on the side, and you turn it on, when the dial light comes on, it comes on for 5, maybe 10 seconds. There's a fairly high-pitched hum that is present at a very low level, and if you have the volume up so that you hear background noise or programming, you tend not to hear it unless you know that it's there, in which case you can hear it. And it doesn't go away. When the dial light goes off, the pitch goes down in frequency, and it's still there. This behavior does not happen when it's not on AC, and as I said, I don't know if it's specific to this particular unit or if it's just a quirk that I notice. I should say that I don't believe that it is due to the RFI from the plug, and the reason I say that is as follows. If I just reach over here and show the adapter, so it's at least branded by Sangean, so one would think that there's some engineering that goes on between the power supply and the radio. But look at this quite hefty snap-on ferrite. That should take care of a lot of noise, and just to test the hypothesis that it isn't that, I had snapped on additional ferrite shields and tried them at different placements along the power cable, and nothing really seems to help. So if you have this radio and you've noticed a similar behavior, please leave a comment down below. I don't think this disqualifies this radio because everyone's ears are different. I happen to hear high-pitched sounds better than other people, apparently. Okay, so that's that's the AC behavior, but on DC, this is quite a nice little radio. The DC power is important, as I said, for eliminating that behavior. And the good news here is that this lasts quite a long time on the 4 D cells. The manual lists that it will play for 120 hours, listening at 4 hours a day at normal volume. It's a fairly clunky way of saying that 120 hours divided by 4 hours per day gives you 30 days. So you should expect that if you listen to this at maybe half the volume, or whatever a reasonable volume is, maybe something you can hear across the room, that the radio should last on the order of a month between having to change batteries. As my habit is, I use this as a bedside radio, and I tend to listen to this overnight because I can't be bothered to use the sleep function which comes on the radio. So I have this on 6 or 8 hours a night, but at very, very low volume, so I don't disturb anyone nearby. So I fully expect that this will last on the order of a month or maybe longer on DC batteries. I've had this for 2 weeks, and I haven't noticed any degradation in the, move that up a little bit so you can see it, in the battery indicator. You see that the battery indicator suggests that we're still at quite considerable, if not full capacity of the batteries. Okay, so what are some of the other features? Well, as I said, I use this as a bedside table clock, and so it appropriately has an alarm and sleep function and a snooze function. I don't use any of these, but I have no reason to believe that they're unsatisfactory. On the side here, we have an auxiliary in jack, we have a headset jack, and we have the 6-volt AC adapter. What else do we have? Well, while we're at it, we'll just kind of look at the other side. There's just one knob, and it's a volume rotary knob. I assume it's a potentiometer as opposed to a rotary encoder, and that's really nice. I like to be able to change the volume continuously. On the front, we have the tuning mechanism here, and it's a switch, right? And I don't generally like that. I like knobs that I can twist and turn to tune the radio. But I have to say, I haven't found the Sangean switches terribly offensive. There's not a strong click when you move this up and down, so that you can move it up and down without having to apply a whole lot of pressure. You notice that when I do change it, the radio isn't the most stable thing in the world. Okay, so you have to be a little bit careful of that, and that's frankly one of the things that I don't like, is that it tends not to be terribly stable when you're tuning it. What do I like? What else do I like about this radio? Well, it has superb sensitivity and very good selectivity, due mostly to the multiple bandwidths. So you can change the bandwidth on the AM band to be 1 kilohertz, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, and 6. And that is very nice. I like it down around 2.5, but stations are perfectly audible at 2 and 1 kilohertz as well. And the lower bandwidth pardon me, filters do quite well at selecting out adjacent channel interference in many cases. This also is active on FM, but there's only a selection of 4 different bandwidths on FM. It has several memories, so when you turn this on, there's an AM1 band with 5 different memories, an AM2 band, 2 FM bands, FM1, FM2, and then we also have the weather band when we do that. Okay, so there's 5 on each for a grand total of 25 memories, 10 on AM, 10 on FM, and then the 5 for the weather band. Yeah, so that's those are some of the things that I like. I won't go into the performance of this in terms of going on and on with detail and doing extensive on-air demonstrations. The performance of this is very, very good, and it's documented pretty extensively by others, both on YouTube, but more so on radio blogs. So I will link in Jay Allen's review of this radio below, but I will simply say that I agree with Jay's conclusions that this is very close in terms with the C crane radios, both of which I've reviewed in previous videos. The audio isn't quite as nice as the one radio. This has, with the bandwidth selection filters, this can notch out interfering stations, frankly, better than the C cranes in my experience. But all in all, these are comparable radios at a much better price. The price point of this, I think I got this at right around $60, $60 US. So that's quite competitive. Another good thing about this is that there's no soft muting that I can detect. So that's just great. And it's a nice size. This is not as large as the C crane radios. It's as light or lighter than the large C crane DX radios, and it's got a very nice kind of ergonomic footprint. The buttons are easy to push. I haven't yet pushed 2 at one time. In the dark, it's easy to feel the distinct one distinct button from another. The dial is quite large for time as well as frequency, right? And so it's just very easy to see and to find. It's also very intuitive to operate. So those are the things that I like about the radio. What do I dislike? Well, in addition to the AC power issue, there's another AC power issue, and I'll see if I can demonstrate this here now as I reach across the field of view and plug this in. So I'm going to tune this to a region on the band where there's no station, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'll turn it up so you can hear the noise. So if you reach over in the night and you go to touch the radio, not just touch the radio, but touch the antenna, you hear that? That's insane. And it's not present when I unplug it. If I unplug it, see, you don't have that effect. So it's not a proximity to the antenna effect. It's something about either the internal power filtering or the noise that's transmitted along with this. I haven't puzzled it out, but it's extremely annoying. I don't know if it's this unit or if it's just the Sangean engineers just completely crashed and burned when they designed the power supply, the AC power supply for this radio. Either way, I don't like it. Another thing I dislike is the signal strength indicator. So let's tune it to let's go up to 1600 because there's a very strong station there. Okay, so you can see that we have bars here. The bars don't tend to be a very sensitive indicator of the weaker stations I've found. I much prefer the antenna signal strength indicator readouts on the other radios, the Texon radios in particular, that give actual readouts in terms of dB mu and signal to noise ratio. But that's of course not a deal breaker. I don't much care how many bars or how many dB I read on a station that I'm logging. I care about hearing the station. Again, these are personal things, and other people might not share that opinion. The coarse tuning of this, you can only change it at 10 kilohertz increments, and that's a little bit annoying. Of course, stations happen or assign frequencies in 10 kilohertz increments, so that's fine, but I like to have a little bit of control for tuning across the band. It's nice to be able to go 1 kilohertz up at a time. Sometimes that makes the difference between being able to hear the call letters at the top of the hour versus not. Another thing that I like, and this is a bit of a nitpick that I don't like, is that you cannot recharge rechargeable batteries in this. This doesn't have an internal recharger. You might say, well, so what? This is a radio, it's not a charger. But I found that in the radios that I have that do have that feature, I use it quite a lot, and I like it. I really like that feature. So that's something that the Sangean engineers could have done that would have been an added attraction. I also have not had a whole lot of luck coupling an external loop antenna, just a tabletop model, into this. I've tried perpendicular positions, I've tried parallel positions, I've tried off at an angle, and it just doesn't seem to couple in terribly well, at least with the model of loop antenna like this. Okay, what else? As I said, there's no soft muting, so that's good. But you knew there was going to be a but. Let me turn this on and turn it on, not off, and find a section of the spectrum here that doesn't have a station. So when I change frequencies, I want you to listen. I'll turn up the volume here in just a moment, but when I change it, you'll be able to hear static. So I'll change it, you'll be able to hear static, and then it will go away and it will mute for a moment, and then it will come back up and you'll hear static at a higher level than when you first change the frequency. So I'm going to change frequency, low, high, and higher. Do that again, low, more, and then just a little bit more. The little bit more might be hard to hear with the microphone. So that 1 to 2 second mute is a little problematic for tuning across the band somewhat quickly, and I've found that it's very easy to miss weaker stations by doing that. So the upshot of this is that when tuning across the band 10 kilohertz at a time, grumble, grumble, you have to wait 2 to 3 seconds at each frequency to actually hear if there's something there that you might want to dig a little bit deeper for. Again, for the casual DXer, this is not a huge deal. It's a bit annoying. For serious, more serious signal chasing, though, this is just phenomenally annoying. Just a couple of maybe cheeseball things. A handle or even a carrying strap would be helpful. This has neither. And while the overall appearance of the radio is quite nice, I like the dark appearance. I think it also comes in white. But I like the dark appearance and the clear labels that are easy to see. I like that, and the ergonomics and the layout and all that. That's quite nice. I don't mind the Sangean branding down at the bottom. That's, you know, that's their prerogative. But this is just, why? A portable digital receiver. Thank you very much, because I wouldn't have known that. Again, a nitpick, but just, it's a bit annoying. Okay, so now after having complained about the things that I don't like, just point out that I started off the video by saying that this is a very nice receiver. It is particularly nice in terms of performance. It is the peer of radios that cost twice or more the cost of this. I like this radio quite a lot. It's a very nice radio with substantial distance capability. It's in a nice looking package. It's ergonomically sound. It's just a little bit of instability, but certainly tolerable. It's everything you would want from a $60 radio. Is this truly portable? Yes, it's obviously truly portable. Is it ultra portable? No, it's not. You know, this is larger than the so-called ultra portable radios, so it doesn't qualify from a size and weight perspective. But is it business trip portable? As I've mentioned before, when I travel, I like to take along a radio and see what new stations I can hear from those locations, and that's a challenge, particularly in hotel rooms, in buildings that might amount to Faraday cages, and you know, there's a TV above you, below you, and on either side within 15 feet, plus all sorts of other electronics that people have. Is this a business trip portable radio? And the answer to that is probably not. It's a little large to just throw in a briefcase or a backpack for a 2 or 3 day business trip, but it's also fairly heavy with the D-cell batteries in there. And I've made my position quite clear on the AC adapter. So, and there's no locking button either. So if you're going to throw this in a backpack, you probably need to take the batteries out, and that's just further annoying as well. So this is probably not a travel radio, but it's a quite nice around the house radio. So I think there's a lot of capability in a small package in this Sangean PR-D4W, and I like it quite a lot indeed. I hope you found this useful and helpful. If so, please leave comments below and leave a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you've just found it and aren't a current subscriber. And as always, thank you very much for listening.